What's happening, guys? This Sunday scan is for December 14th, and the week ahead, it is current market thoughts. It is what's going on in the market, what I expect for the week ahead, and sort of how to prepare for it. But first and foremost, if you haven't already, like the video because I'm sure that you'll at least find something that is worthy of a thumbs up by the end of this video. But if you get 1,000 likes again, we'll do another broadcast just like we did last week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you didn't get to see it live, you got to see it after, and I mean, the preparation was awesome. You ended up being an intense 15 to 20 unwinder, 20 per share unwinder as anticipated. You guys saw the trade that I made on it, as well as some of the cruise lines. And at this point, all the tickers are starting to run together, so I don't remember the other ones. But you guys can go back and watch it. If you guys have any questions about it, reach out. But that is what I do every single day. And that is how I get prepared. And that's how I take the watch list and then condense it down into only a few names so that I can zone in, focus, and scale up on 1 to 2 max for that particular day. And that's one thing that I've been working on. Just because, it's hard to try to nail everything. And if you do, you're going to miss everything. And, that is something that you'll face. You'll get a lot of FOMO. You'll see a big runner. And all of a sudden you have, 19 positions and you're wondering, how you got here, how you missed this A+ setup, which had you just focused on 1 or 2, you would have crushed it. So, I think that, that is a good thing to check out when we do it. So again, if you do a thumbs up right now and we get 1,000 likes, I will do another midweek pre-market broadcast, which I do at 8:50 a.m. every single day for members. But at least you'll be able to get a sneak peek behind the scenes of how I prepare and share that with members every single day. So first and foremost, Matt Mattis. The key takeaway was, move on, don't dwell on losses. And I wore the neck shirt today again, and so it's such an important thing. And I went over that. If you guys didn't check out the video last week, if this is your first Sunday video scan, go back and check it out. I forget exactly where I started, but I just shared a story about a friend that's been trading very, very well, but just completely shifted gears because he just had a couple bad weeks, and he's thinking, I'll move away from the process that got me here. And that's just a backwards way of doing things. So I wanted to remind you guys, if you hadn't checked it out, to make sure you do check it out, because I got a lot of positive feedback through DMs and comments on that exact topic. So otherwise, there was a lot of news this week. I'm not going to name names, but you guys saw, a big subscription service had a little trouble this week. And I think that it is very important to at least be aware of it, especially when you're venturing out looking for different trading services. And if you are joining places for picks, right? If you're joining somewhere to just shadow a trader, if you're joining somewhere to just, oh, well, this guy made a killing, so I'm going to join. That's why these services dangle P&Ls, right? And there's a lot of other services that their P&Ls would not be as big if they didn't have 4, 5, 10,000 sheep all doing the same thing. So most people don't know that. Most people come in and they say, oh, how do I start day trading? And rather than thinking about the process and exactly how to potentially anticipate these trades, they just want to follow the leader. And the results are never, ever going to be the same, because particular chat room XYZ could alert a stock and it immediately goes into a circuit halt. They add, and their actual entries are causing the stock to go up and up and up. And if you are any bit late, guess what? You're going to lose. And the thing about circuit halts is, as you saw on SNOA, when particular newsletters fail at using their flow to break it out to new levels, guess what? It comes in hard and it comes in fast, and you will break your account. So the key here is be aware. We've always talked about this, and I even said it last week and the week before and the week before, but P&Ls and all those things that you see online are just dangling the carrot, because overall, probably 99% of people that come into trading, and this is a compliment to the 1% that actually want to learn the process, but 99% just want the easy fix. They want the Lambo, they want the house, they want, whatever it may be that got them excited about this career. But guess what? Who knows? Maybe that car is a family member's. Maybe that house is a friend's. You never really know if it's rented, if it's theirs, if, you don't know. So you're making decisions based off, folks in jets, folks doing all these different crazy things, and you think that this is the lifestyle you're going to get by joining. So I've said it before, I'm saying again, stay away from that stuff, because it's not likely, and it's all about the process. No one person's process is going to be perfect. It's all about taking a little bit from all of these different traders and understanding the why, having a trade plan spelled out. And if you understand it, then you potentially took the trade. But if you don't understand it, at least you're not blindly following someone who you may believe is super successful, but in reality, they wouldn't be if you weren't following that trade, right? So keep that in mind. Be safe out there. Crazy week, to read the news that on some of the things that came out. And I just wanted to share that with you. And also, a lot of the best traders I know, you don't know anything about their life. You don't know anything about, what kind of car they have, what kind of house they live in, and all that kind of stuff, because it doesn't matter. It's not really the focus. And if you start making that the focus, if you are always focused on materialistic, on all that kind of stuff, you're going to realize, and I've said this before as well, once you get there, things change, right? You want to get to X in your account. Well, when you get to X, you need 2X, then 5X, then 10X, right? So if it's always a monetary based goal, you're never going to be happy as a trader. Never, right? You want to get to your first 100K, guess what? You need 200K. Then you need 500K. Well, what's next after $1 million? You need $1 million, then 2, then 5, 10, 50. It goes exponentially higher from there. And, in some markets might be much more attainable than others. However, it gets harder and harder and harder to get there. So therefore, you're never going to be happy if that is your goals and how, you kind of set your happiness or your success based off of hitting those spots. So always refocus on that process, refocus on fine-tuning it, and you'll be surprised what happens the better that you get at, the underlying process, the foundation that you have. And then the results will speak for themselves. So a couple more things. Webinar, 8 p.m. Eastern on Monday. I was going to do it last week and then just ran out of time. So I am setting it, putting in the calendar, 8 p.m. Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and that's it. So any new members, Black Friday members, Cyber Monday members, or regular members, typically what I do is I go over some of the trades for the day of the week, or whatever's working in this market, maybe a lesson or two, and then I open it up, Q&A, and we just go at it back and forth for a while. Understanding momentum. So this week, GLSI, right? Crazy runner. It went from 5 to 7 maybe, or 7 to 10, and then 20, back down to 30, back down, and then it went all the way up to like $1.50. And so everybody wants the next one. It's just what happens, like right away. They're like, all right, I'm in this stock, it's going up, I'm not selling because I want to get the next GLSI. And so you had that with SLS, which is a known trash name. But there was just so much, not necessarily demand, but there was just so much patience on the folks that were long that there wasn't enough supply, meaning the sell side, there wasn't enough selling to hold the name down. There was a lot of selling from shorts. The demand was there, and it squeezed everybody out, right? And that is a direct impact from GLSI because everybody immediately says, nope, I'm not selling. I sold GLSI way too early. And that's the worst thing you can do because I will tell you this, most people lose the most money trying to anticipate the next XYZ, right? So if you are in SLS, if you are in GVOX, I think it was, or whatever names are running, even HJLI, right? Started to run, but at which point does your risk versus reward change? And if you don't know that answer, you shouldn't be trading the name. And just like I told the room, if you're learning to trade, this is a watch only name, right? There's no reason for you to be trading it because you're either going to double your account, which would be great, but you're equally likely to cut your account in half. And SLS was down over 50% on Friday and then more after hours. GLSI went from 150 to 100 to 80 to 60 to 50, I think maybe even into the 40s. I don't remember. You would have got destroyed. So the point here is who cares? Who cares that you shoulda, coulda, woulda made millions of dollars had you just held, right? There is a point where your risk goes over the reward. And at that point, it's just greed, right? And when greed takes over, yeah, maybe you kill it. And that would teach you a great lesson to be reckless the next time where you probably lose it too. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind in this current market when things are crazy. When stocks go nuts, make sure you're trimming. Don't try to hold for the Holy Grail. Because more often than not, you're going to be disappointed. That is what we call a black swan event. And probably 1 out of 999 names do that, maybe to like 50, 60, and then 1 out of, 1% of those end up doing what that did. So if you think about the numbers and what the chance is that this new name that you own does that same thing, it's slim. You might as well buy a scratch ticket. You might as well go to a casino. Just don't do that to yourself. Focus on what will grow your account over time and where you can actually learn and apply it to have something that you can have consistency. We've got 3 weeks into the year end, and I've said this before too. I said it a couple months ago, but one thing that St. Lucie has always said is all these dummies that do these New Year's resolution, like it's just kicking the can down the road. Start today. Start Monday. You could even start today if it's non-market related, right? Jump on the treadmill. Do whatever you got to do. But start today rather than kicking the can down the road. And then as January 1st comes, then you'll be ready to go. You'll already have 3 weeks of habit forming, and it's going to help you stick with that goal. So start tomorrow if it's market related. Start today if it's health related. And there's no reason why you can't, go ahead and do it. So the goal here as a trader, the goal here is, finding the foundation in the process is independence. And circling back to, what I was talking about at the beginning of this, all of those follow the leader things, all of those, I'm just going to, I'm going to get this guy's next hot pick because he's turned $1 into, $1 billion. So if I just follow him, I'm going to make a bunch of money. If that's your strategy, you're becoming dependent, not independent. So think about that. And then last but not least, I mentioned this weekend that limited margin IRA was the best thing that's happened at E-Trade. So I've been working on my IRA quite a bit, and the ability to really let that thing rip in this current market environment where I've got a ton of exposure on the long side. The ability to buy and sell and buy and sell and buy and sell and buy and sell is because of the limited margin IRA. It's not like you can go in and buy, 4-1 on margin on your IRA. No, you can't do that. But what it does is it takes it from being cash settlement to turning it into something that you don't have to wait anymore. You bought it on unsettled funds. You're like, I should probably sell this, but then it's going to be a mark. And if I get 3 strikes, then I'm going to be locked out. So this allows you to go ahead and just trade it freely. So a couple people asked me online, what's a limited margin IRA? I can assure you that the first 5 Google results give you that information. So, although sometimes I appear short and although sometimes I have sassy replies, if you can Google it and it's on the first page, then why are you tweeting? It would have taken you just as long. So all of that stuff is spelled out. But if you guys do have IRAs through E-Trade, Fidelity, and I think Ameritrade has them too. I'm not sure who else has them so far, but I know at least those 3 do. But check into it. Check into it because you'll be pleasantly surprised that you don't have to wait for funds to settle, as you typically would. So anyway, let's get right into Scan, and I promise this thing won't be 40 minutes like last time, or I think it was 47 minutes. All right, guys. So Diz is going to be the first one up. Now it did pull back a little bit right after hours, and it's consolidating quite well, just above that VWAP for the day. This one, I was a little frustrated because I had a perfect entry plan off the open. My goal was, pretty much right into this 170 mark, maybe a little bit higher, and then slam down. And it did exactly that, and I missed it. So what did I do? I went and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and short the pop and potentially scale in if that trade works. And it didn't. So then I had to stop. Then I tried it again, and it worked, for 15 minutes or so, and then nope, went right back. So I tried it a couple times. Nothing that I scaled into, because as you guys know, I like to dabble in, and then I'll scale into the winner. But it was just a totally avoidable trade for me. And not that it took away attention from anything else, because fortunately I had VTVT going, but it was just a waste of time, waste of headspace, and I know better. So I think that the most important levels are going to be this area right over here. And you can see that it's the 174 level is a double bottom essentially. And it's hugging VWAP. And I think the next key levels is going to be over that 175, probably like the 176. And the reason I picked that one is you can see the base and this consolidation where it started to pretty much peak at that level. So the ideal kind of situation would be maybe a gap up, $2 or $3 per share, and either rip towards 180 or at least use 180 as that guide on the original entry, and then scale into the trade from there. And otherwise, if I was patient, I'd be looking for 174 failed follow through for a potential unwind spot. Then we've got HJLI. Now HJLI was a crazy one. It went nuts. And so I started into this thing, and I actually didn't even post on it. I didn't even alert it because I just felt like there was no reason to. I had this idea in mind that I was going to accumulate for a swing into this week because they have some catalysts. They've got a lot of stuff coming. And although I think that they end up raising and doing the dirty at some point, I do think that they will start it out with a decent run. So that was the goal. So I actually started in, and I saw somebody swipe about 10,000 shares. I think it was right around 10:40 a.m. or 10:43 a.m. or so. And then what I did is I was like, you know what? I've been prepared for this. I've been watching it. I'm going to go ahead and, start my position. So that's exactly what I did. I started into it. I added into it, and it immediately went straight up. So I was like, you know what? Well, great. I mean, I'm happy. It went straight up, but, I'm not going to alert it because it just went up $1, $1.50. And so anyway, it went insane. So I ended up having a fantastic trade on it. It held VWAP, and it ended up coming in quite nicely. I traded it extremely well, quietly, but extremely well. And I got basically the low 8s, 9 ads, 10 ads. I sold some into this first ramp, and I sold all the rest before it ended up coming in, which was perfect. And then I replaced some into this washout as planned. So that was the trade that I said, if it does flush out, I'm interested. So I'm thinking that it could build this week into the catalyst, but I don't want to overhold this thing. I think they have a game plan of what they'd like to do with it. Probably need a little bit of money, but in the meantime, at least this action brought in some shorts. It's a tiny float. Everybody's excited right now about a million, 2 million shares, and once that float gets cornered or the volume kicks in, they like to dance around. So we'll see what happens with that, and we'll go from there. I've got two more main watches. Laser and QS both were fantastic last week on the long side, but also it's an important lesson to show you that no matter how bullish you are, when that tape changes, you have to respect it, right? Because I'm thinking that both QS and Laser could go into, at first I said 35.40s on Laser, then it starts to really rip, and maybe it could go higher. Same thing with QS, right? And so I was long this day. I had it into this gap. It was a phenomenal trade, but I was still thinking we're in trend. And so each day I would look for where the support is, and I would take a trade. It actually worked out pretty well. But as soon as it hit my stop, which I was risking about $2 per share on the last trade of it, I took it off. And that was the best thing I did, because guess what? The complete momentum change, and it completely unwound. So it's very important to, kind of always note where these things are having trouble. And I guess that's not a good way to show it, but you can see that there's a seller in there. You can see that, each pop is failing. You can see that this is the prior level of support all the way back to pre-market, test, break. You missed that trade, you missed that short, fine. Guess what? Came all the way back up, and it retested at that level and failed, and then unwound again. So these are the things that I look for. Same thing with Laser. You can pretty much see the same action that I was talking about. You've got a nice support line there, and you've got, it's obvious that there's a seller in the tape. So why, in this market, on a stock that has just tripled or quadrupled, why are you trying to be patient? Why are you trying to, be too proud to stop out, right? You can't do that in this market. You have to stick with your plan, move on, because there's just so much good that's out there, which we'll get into on VTVT after the next one, that you need to focus on what's working and where your edge is, and kick them off. So I have this Laser on watch just because I'm thinking, it's come straight down. So ideally, we come back and we fill this gap. So ideally, it would come back and fill a little bit of maybe a 25 wash, something like that, flush out, and then come back up to about 28 or so. So lower the better, flush under 25, and rally back, assuming that it might find some resistance at 28 on the way back up. So that's something I would look for. Not that I think it's a long-term bounce, but I think that any flush out, shorts that don't cover will be enticed to cover before it starts to rally a little bit more. So pretty big move. Nice stuff so far. I want to watch. You can see that there is a support line there, 151. Let's call it 150, 152, right around there. So ones like this, I like to just keep on radar. It's not something that I'm going to be like, all right, we're going for it on Monday. No. I want to see it kind of fail, and I wouldn't mind joining it at 149, 148. I don't want to be in the 50-50, which way is it going to go mode. So let's see what happens with that. I'll definitely be watching, and we might have a little bit of a correction down towards the 137, 135 level. That seems realistic, and who knows? If it starts to hold and it wants to continue to break out, then obviously trash that idea. But as long as 150 holds, then I'm assuming that this thing's gonna hold trend. But if it starts to peak out 152, 151, 150, I'm interested. So anyway, follow through momentum. So once again, if you guys click through on the description, you'll see that I have it broken down. So the last four were my main watches. The next ones are going to be failed follow through, which is essentially higher the better. I'm looking for the momentum to fail off, put it in a top, and I'd like to join the trend. Typically 9:45, 10 a.m. plus. But VTVT was just as clean as can be. Yes, I could have gotten involved early pre, but then I might have been, pushed out into this 6th level, and it might have thrown me off for the day. So I'm in no rush mode. There's just so much range right now that there is just no reason to look. The earlier I'm sized up, the earlier I have to stay at my desk, right? And so right now I'm just trying to find that balance of, do I want to just sit here all day, especially when Aiden has been so nice to get me better pricing on locates lately, because he gets me up at 4 a.m. every morning. But with that said, my goal is not to sit here in front of the desk 4, 5, 6, 7 a.m., right? So I have no rush, and especially when you have such big range, $2, $3, $4 per share, you're not going to miss the move. Even if you miss, a little bit, you can still get a good percentage or a good chunk of that move, and that's exactly what I was going for. Once again, you can kind of see 510 being a key level pre-market. I missed that. I did. And, so it started to come back. And so at that point, to me, that 450 becomes pretty key. I actually got in there. I posted the chart, you guys can see, but I got in there. It was starting to stay heavy. You can see that it started to put in a top at 440s, and it flushed out. And I was like, okay, this is great. But then it did this reclaim, and I was like, I don't know. I have a little bit too much size, and I'm gonna play it cool. I'm gonna go ahead and size down. I'm gonna take a little bit of the profits because it had flushed out, but it did this fast reclaim, and I don't like those, especially if I don't have much data yet. You don't know if you're gonna have one of these swipes. You don't know, right? This market's nuts. So I'd rather do what I can control, and that is control my position size. So I sized down, as you saw, which allowed me to re-put on that position 40, 50, 60 cents higher and almost double the size, because it had a great stuff right into VWAP. And it's not a okay, it hit VWAP, so it's a short. It's never that. It's you have to watch the tape, you have to watch the action. And there was huge stuff, retested, it failed again, and it gave the signs that it was go time. So that's why I was patient with it. That's why I let it work. Nice dollar per share. And the next question that I will get is, what did you see on the tape, right? The answer is always screen time. You record these things every single day. I write the stuff out in the Trader's Lounge, my thoughts in my head and what I'm looking for. Doesn't mean I'm going to be right every single time, but at least you get an idea of what I'm looking for, what I want to see happen, to confirm my thesis. And if that happens, then I get aggressive like I did on Friday. So that worked out perfectly. And, it's probably going to float, but I'd love to see it kind of come back and retest this level here, which we might actually have. I kind of think it'll probably open 280s, but in a perfect world, it opens 320s, pushes out to 350s, and then we have a nice quiet fade off of radar. That would be ideal. SNOA was great. I think you guys can do a quick look over here and just kind of see that, looking left, it'll help you without emotions, right? If you're sized up too much, you can always put more size on later, right? You don't have to be size at the top, right? It's okay to size in on the backside. So anyway, this thing was a little bit aggressive in the morning. This is an example. Newsletter came in. Literally brought everybody in at the top, sold, and it immediately went down $1, $2. So that is exactly what I was saying, where you follow the leader and you're going to break your accounts in half. But again, over here, nice retest and basically stuffed right into the prior highs. But the key level for me that I put in the room was the 1420s. And what I wrote in the room was, you can see here the early tops. Right over here. And I said in the room, a lot of times you'll see them pull that 1420s, let it push through, and then resell back under that level. So everybody, either one who is oversized short starts to cover because they panic, or two, if you're long or looking to get long or looking to buy the breakout, chasing it, then you're in. So that creates a lot of demand again, and then they just went boop, put the 1420, 1430 offer back, and you end up getting screwed. So they kind of create liquidity by doing that. And they did the same thing over here. But overall, you want to look for the key levels. And then again, you can kind of see that, 13s ended up being, the base for the morning and the base later on, which ended up breaking. So I am currently short this. I covered some after hours and I covered some into the close. But like I told my room, if you guys go long this, then, good luck. I would not touch this thing long at all. The writing was on the wall. Know what you own. We know this name, and a lot of retail traders got stuck. Also, NH, fantastic trade. In a perfect world, we get a nice push, back up to 430s, 450s. We'll see. I always hope for those kind of things, but sign of the times, 100 million shares volume. Like, where does that come from? I'm not complaining, but you have to be cautious on the front side, right? There was so much action. I had some great trades, and I shorted the first pop, and I had covers right over there, and it even said, front side shorts equals front side covers, and if you're not covering, stay away. And so anyway, nice VWAP hold, squeeze everybody out, but I'll post these charts as well too. I did in the Traders Lounge, so you could see how I traded them, but I would encourage you guys to go back and see why or how you could have maybe played it better, knowing that there was a good chance of a little bit of resistance at that level. It could be 640, it could be 6, but you should assume that, not that it can't go through, it always can go through, but that at some point it's probably going to end up back under, because it's going to have a lot of difficulty holding that chart breakout, given the fact that, this thing, this is, a months and months and months of upside, a year's worth of upside, and a year's worth of, 6 months of upside, 6 months of downside of bags, and then they all get let out in one day. Yeah, there's a good probability that it's not going to hold that level. So that's why I was so interested in that. That's why I faded it back down. It was a great one. And once again, the shirt that I wore last week always looked left. That's why. That's where you can get that confidence from. And same thing, SNOA. If there was ever any questions, you can start to get some feedback from, how it typically reacts. Does it mean that it will always do this? No. And that's when, it should have died by now. It's still holding. If you start to get nervous, if you're oversized, if the trend is holding longer than you think, that's when you have to take note, especially if the volume's high. But if it's in a downtrend, if it's holding that pullback, then, then you should assume that it might do the same thing again. All right, so let's get into potential continuation plays. Now, continuation plays is the next thing I have on scan. We'll fly through these, pretty much all the same stuff. SLDB had some news, stake, whatever, raised on Friday. I forget exactly what it was. But good players, they've been involved for a very long time. So it started to pretty much hold trend. And in this market, if the stock holds trend, if it holds over VWAP, I'm getting long, because you've got a great risk versus potential reward. So I'm risking based off of maybe 420s or VWAP over and under, when I got long at the 450s, 445, 450, 460s, scaled into the trade, sold some into the rips, and I'm letting that trade work. And my thought is, you should assume that we're going to have trouble at that 6 range, right? Because the daily chart, huge range this day. But the news Friday might have been a little bit of a game changer, and maybe they took even more of a stake. So we'll see what happens. But my thought was maybe we get some follow through. We gap up over 6, rip towards 650s, something like that. For me, I'd like to let this trade work. If it does go 650s in a very quick manner, I probably would size down. However, my goal is to let that 450 entry that I posted work. And I already locked some of that in. TTCF, as you guys know, I was joining trend on Friday. I had a little bit of a position from the day before, but lower the better. Trend was coming. I think it's going to be a big week ahead. There's a lot of stuff on the calendar for this thing, and so let's see what happens. But My goal would be to position in even more if the trend starts to break away from my average. I've already got probably about a buck, maybe 70 cents to a dollar padding, but I'd love to see it kind of retest towards the 20 level. And if we start to really break out, then I would scale in if it looks like it's going to do one of those SPAC type moves, which, once again, has been pretty insane lately. So I want to stick with strong SPACs. I want to stay away from weak SPACs unless they have a really good story and I'm looking for a longer term position. They're just rotating around all these different ones. BCRX, so far so good. I definitely did not put on as much as I wanted. I have a very small position. I've been looking to get long on dips. I just put on basically a feeler to remind myself that when it's weak, I want to be there. But unfortunately, I haven't really scaled up too much. AESE, same thing. I had a bunch at $1.05, $1.06, $1.10. Noted that $1.10 was the key level. It busted through that 110 level, came back, retested right over here. You can see retested right to the 110. So now that prior breakout becomes support, just like we talk about. And, away it went. So nice idea by Cody there. I was there, the week ahead, but I forgot about it. He put it back on my radar. Prog, so far so good. Nice breakout on Friday. I had a position when it hit scan on Thursday, and it had a nice buyer in the tape Monday. So I started to add into that position. So we'll see what happens. The way that I've been treating the IRA is, big moves, size down, and just trade around that core until it breaks trend. If it breaks trend or after a day or two it hasn't really done anything, then I'll go ahead and move on. Couple other ones. BLRX. I want to see this daily chart. Beautiful setup. We're right on a breakout potential, 270s, and then maybe around the 290 level, and then clear skies over 320, 330. So definitely worth a look. MOTS I've been positioning in. You can see the wicks that we talk about. So for me, I'm pretty much using the daily VWAP and see what happens from there. And CLRB still positioned, but like I've said, the trigger is really that 240, 250 level. So I would not scale into a trade until it started to break out through there. So last but not least, staying familiar. You guys can click through the description and check those all out. Those are where I post names that I want to set price alerts. You guys know in IU we have the price alert section. It will wake you up when it's time, right? So you set your alerts, you set your prices. You get alerted right away when that particular level hits. And it's really saved me a lot of screen space. You don't have to use all these different charts to watch these things. And then as soon as you want to be alerted, you're alerted. So that is it. We kept it 35 minutes or so this time, so that's good. Remember, if you enjoyed today, put a like, and we will do a broadcast this week. I'll email it out, I'll tweet it out, but I'd love you guys to check it out to see what we do pre-market every single day in IU. And that's it, guys. So have a great weekend, and we'll see you in the room on Monday. If you have any questions whatsoever, reach out. You know the drill. Let's close up this year extremely well. Let's focus on what changes we're going to make. Let's prepare, create habits this year for next year. And as usual, leave your key takeaway. We'll be giving away a month of IU next week. We do the shirts every 2 weeks, and then we do the Momo Traders book once a month as well. That's it. Catch you guys in the room.